Hi, this is Bob Sorrentino from Italian Roots and Genealogy, and we have Dan Zongrone back today. This time he's in New York
Yeah.
State,
Yes.
and he's with his mom, Lucrezia. So thanks a lot for being here.
Oh, thank
Thank
you,
you
Bob.
for inviting us.
No, it's my pleasure. And, my wife said I had to talk more about the family this time. Last time we talked about houses, which she
Yeah.
loved. And after she watched it, she said it made me wanted to move there. And I said, well, let's move.
She's interested in moving. Okay, well, at least so part of the year you can come and visit. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
It's funny because you had mentioned Tropea on the broadcast, so I showed her some pictures from there, and that's another amazing place.
Yeah.
And then we watched just this past Sunday. Stanley Tucci was in Calabria.
You watched
that's
it.
right.
You
Yeah,
watched.
so it was. Some people, I mean, how much could he say in an hour, right? But
Yeah.
he went to his hometown, and he said I think he said 80% of the town were Tucci's. The whole town, it was Tucci.
Is that right?
It's Tucci. It's Tucciville.
Tucciville.
Okay.
And then he was in Sheila, of course, and he was in Tropea.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
I thought it was a good show, but like I said, some people didn't care for it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Dan. I talked to you already. I want to talk to Mom.
See, she always steals the show. Yeah.
I hope I have the right answers.
There's no right answer. So when did your parents come to America?
My parents were born here.
Oh, they were? Okay.
My parents are, yes. They're first generation Americans. And Grandma, that was the one that started the whole thing. She was born in Italy and then came here.
Oh, okay. So what year did she come?
She came, oh gosh, she was only a young girl.
I think it was 1901, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, so pretty early then. Yeah.
Yeah. She had one child. She had one child there before she came. And then when she came here, she had the rest of the family.
Right. And that's not too dissimilar from my family, although both my parents had brothers or sisters born in Italy. But my grandparents all my grandparents came in 1915. So how did they wind up you're in Utica, right? So how did they wind up there?
That I don't know.
Well, my best guess is because I've got, it gets complicated very quickly because once you go back, you've got both sides on both sides. You got two sides to my mom and two sides to my dad. My dad's grandfather came real young because he wasn't on the ship manifest or anything.
The Zongrones.
Yeah, Zongrone. He probably worked his way over. The ticket that I have for her side, they were paying I think it was 185 lira, which was probably, a pretty good amount for someone who didn't have any money. But so a lot of times, I think in the harbor in New York, when the ship came in, there were, if you might call, headhunters, recruiters, and they wanted them for the farms upstate or the railroads. So that's where my great-grandfather ended up in Utica area. So I suspect there was also the same idea, go upstate. Some of them may not have really liked because they really were from an agricultural area, Calabria.
Right.
So they didn't like the idea probably of the big city. And there was people, offering work upstate. A lot of dairy farms in upstate New York. So there was definitely a lot of farming. That's my best guess.
Why they ended up here
in Utica, because it's freezing cold up here too. But
much colder than Calabria, that's for sure.
But once they got here, they probably they had a job and they realized, and they probably 1 year after another, there was more and more opportunity. They started meeting other people from Cropani, literally from the same town they came from. They met other people that were from Calabria as well, nearby towns, and of course, then there was
cotton mills.
Yeah.
Cotton mills.
And then they'll probably meeting a partner, and before you know it, their family was growing.
Yes.
Yeah, and and it's funny because people did what they did when they got here. And I don't know why. My mother's family, they were from Bari in Italy, and they were in New York. They were all icemen for some reason, delivering ice.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Do you?
Never
Yeah, yeah.
mentioned- Oh, absolutely.
Well, my
Well-
uncles would do it. My uncles delivered ice.
Yeah, that's right. They had a little sign in the window, both sides. One side said 25 and 50, the other side 75 and 100.
Yeah.
And whichever number of pounds of ice they wanted, that's the side they turned up. And they would come, the Iceman, with those big ice tongs. You remember those?
I don't remember them, but I've seen
No,
pictures.
you don't.
We've seen them in the museum, I think.
Absolutely. And then I can remember as a child jumping on the truck with the ice in it and
wow.
getting their pick and knocking a little piece of ice off so we could suck on it.
Oh, jeez.
That's the truth.
Well, my uncle Dominic, my mother's uncle actually, so my great uncle, he had a finger that his finger went this way, sideways, because he hit it with the ice pick one time and killed the nerve, and it's permanently stuck out at an angle.
Nobody ever fixed it.
No, well, back
Well,
then.
yeah, good for drinking tea.
But a couple of my uncles, delivered ice. That my uncles would have been, well, most of them would have probably been over 100 now. My mom would have been 96 or 7.
Yeah.
But they used to, in New York, 5 flights up, walk up with 150 pounds of ice on their back.
Oh, yeah.
And
We
the-
lived on the 3rd floor of a 6-family building.
Oh,
So-
really? Yeah. So
That Iceman was busy.
So how often did they bring ice? Was it every day, every
Well,
other day?
No, every other day, maybe 3, 4 days. And I remember getting a lot of slaps in the back of my head because I forgot to take the basin out from under the refrigerator where the ice was melting.
Oh, wow. That's so
Take
cool.
the basin out and dump it every now and then.
Oh, it dripped.
It
Yeah.
dripped.
Yeah. It would drip.
As it melted. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
those
that's
were the
something.
days.
So when did you get a refrigerator?
Oh boy, that's a good one.
Your mom had one, right?
My mom, yeah. When my mom got married, they had a refrigerator.
Well, that was 1926.
But I spent so much time at my grandmother's.
At your grandmother's. Yeah.
That's where I got all the goodies. Now, most of the family, they laugh when I tell them about the trolley car that used to go by, and every now and then the men used to come with the hot tar to fix the track so the trolley could run smoothly as it went by Bleecker Street. And as that tar was melting and hot, we would go and snitch a piece of that and chew it.
No.
Yes,
Oh my God.
that was our gum.
Oh my,
We couldn't buy gum.
oh my.
So
Really?
we chewed the tar.
Did you blow bubbles?
And some of them don't believe it, but that's the truth.
Oh my God.
Yes.
All right. Maybe. All right. Wow.
Dan, you're getting an education along with the rest
I
of
had
us.
no idea. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I remember my mother's family they were very poor. And, I remember my aunt telling me that they would get, for Christmas, they would get like an orange.
It's
was
right.
That was a big deal.
Oh, but oh,
I occasionally got a piece of coal.
oh, really?
That was not good. It meant you were naughty.
Oh, I thought that was a myth.
Oh, no, it wasn't a myth. I'd find a piece way down in there, but there was always an orange and maybe a penny or 2.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
Yeah.
wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they weren't gifts like we see now under the tree.
No, no, no.
Computers and their Visa cards and everything else under there now.
And I bet you were happy to get that orange and the penny.
Oh my
right?
God, we were thrilled.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. It was special. It was all ours. Most times when we got something, we had to share it.
Yeah. Well, and now, so did you was it a large family? Did you come from a large family?
No, I had just one brother.
Oh,
One
so that's
wonderful brother.
relatively small, yeah, for Italian family
Yes,
back then.
yes, yes,
Yeah, I actually didn't have any first cousins, which was odd.
Wow,
My
yes,
yes,
my
it's
my
very
dad
odd.
my
yeah.
my dad had no brothers and sisters, and my mom had the one brother,
That
and
never married,
he didn't have any kids.
never married.
So we extended out, and everybody else was our cousin.
That's the
Yeah, yeah.
Bonazzi side. That's the Bonaccis.
Yeah, see, I come from a huge family. My mother, uh, she had 9 in her family. So I had
Oh,
cousins, all over the place. And
Yeah.
my mother, I should say, they were so poor that they would play a game that if you left your fork a certain way, your brother or sister could steal the meat off your dish when they had meat because they didn't,
I'm sure.
a lot.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
I
goodness!
know. Funny. So
Wow.
many wonderful things. Yes.
So what did your dad do for a living?
My dad,
Yeah.
my dad worked in he used to make fishing rod reel of the
Hora,
Thai
it was,
Horrocks Ibbotson.
you
Do you know
remember
that name?
remember Horrocks Ibbotson?
I
They
know, but
were
I'm not a fisherman, so that wouldn't be.
They were high.
yeah,
They were
mostly fishing
they
equipment.
were wealthy people here, and they owned that factory.
Yeah, kind of sporting goods. But Utica, of course, had a lot of factories. In fact, I noticed behind you, the hand embroidery stuff.
Yeah,
They had the mills here before they went south and all.
my
Of
mother
course.
worked in the cotton mills,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and my father did that. He made flies for fishing. He would wind the flies, or he would wind the fly rods that they produced.
And that was a real skill to be able to do that, right?
Oh, yes, it was.
Oh, he was a big
He
fisherman.
was
Yeah.
a quite the fisherman, and very skilled at
And
it.
back
Yes.
back then, I mean, the creeks must have been beautiful with the trout. Because I remember even as a kid, we would get some trout, and there was other fish. Of course, there's bass and there's pike and there's a lot of fish. But
A lot of fishing around here.
it changed pretty quickly. But I could imagine what it was like in the 20s and 30s. It must have really been full, all the
Yeah.
creeks and the rivers.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So, and of course, all the mills and all of that stuff is gone.
Yeah.
So what did your mom do there in the mill? What did they do?
Actually, my mother ended up becoming a supervisor,
Oh, great. Yeah.
and everybody was on a machine. In fact, I was just telling Dan this morning, they were all sewing, and they would all get bundles of parts of a T-shirt or a sweatshirt. And one used to sew the band around the neck, the collarette girls. One used to sew the sleeves on, then somebody would put the two sides of the shirt together. They all did their little thing until the shirt was complete. That's
Yeah.
what
Well,
they
they used to do that in New York City. I remember in New York City in the 60s and 70s,
sure
they were still making,
still
garments.
doing.
Oh,
Mhm.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. You used to go out, you used to see all the racks lined up with the clothes and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All gone. In fact, my wife, her dad was a tailor. Her father was from Puerto Rico, but he was a tailor, and her mom was
Yeah.
was a seamstress also.
Yeah, that
Um,
was a big thing around here, tailoring.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Tailors are wonderful because
Yes.
there's such an art because you were making clothes to fit the person. It was really beautiful.
No, there's still one right up the street from me that I'll take some slacks to every now and then. He puts professional shortening, and he takes out these suits that he used to make, all
I
handmade
know.
suit.
I know.
Unbelievable.
My cousin in the 70s, early 70s, my cousin Ronnie and his partner Richie, they had a custom clothing store in Gramercy Park in New York City, and it was
Yeah.
all you went in, you got measured, everything was made in the basement right there. They had a couple
Wow.
of tailors,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and like you said, you got to pick the material and the suit. You can't imagine the
No,
suits.
unbelievable.
Not the same as they used to be. But they and they had some pretty famous clients too. They had Mick
Yeah.
Jagger and his wife come in,
Oh,
Oh,
really?
nice.
and yeah, they used to have because they were in Gramercy Park, and
Yeah.
it was
Special.
the 70s, and
Yeah.
they they wound up making clothes for Eric Clapton and some
Yeah,
pretty cool
yeah.
things. But
Oh, but the suits, I probably felt pretty good, and they looked pretty good, I'm
I'm
sure.
oh,
sure.
they were
Gorgeous.
awesome. They were really really awesome.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you, what was it like being an Italian American, if you experienced any of it? I've asked a couple of my cousins uh, when the war broke out or when the war ended. Do you remember
I
that?
remember the war very well.
Do you?
I was
Yeah.
about 10 and the war broke. And I remember all the things we had to do. We would smash the metal cans if we had vegetables. Both ends were taken out and flattened. We would actually save the silver if we were lucky enough to have a stick of gum. The silver that lined it. Do
Really?
you remember how the
Yeah.
gum?
Yeah. Yeah.
All that and roll it into a
Oh, it
ball.
was like aluminum foil.
Yes, it was
Oh,
aluminum foil.
oh, the
Exactly.
Wow.
I remember the rationing. I remember the relief. We used to have to go to the firehouse with a little slip of paper. Maybe we were lucky that week. We got butter, cheese, sometimes, and to the day he died, my brother would never wear corduroy because in those days you got corduroy knickers whether you liked them or not, and you wore them. That's the truth.
and he didn't like
Oh,
He hated them. He hated
oh,
them.
that's so funny. That's so funny.
Yes.
Now, do you know if your I know because my grandparents had to register as enemy aliens. Did your grandparents have to register? Do you
N-
know?
No, I don't remember any of that.
Well,
Yeah, you were young.
yeah, it was a strong population in Utica, very
Very
strong
strong. All
Italian,
on one end of Utica.
and we had a fellow who actually married into the family, and he befriended Franklin D. And so we were in pretty good shape up here. Yeah, and
He
Yeah.
might know him.
he won. Franklin Roosevelt won that year his presidency. So this guy who married into the family, he married my grandfather's sister, and there was a good connection between Washington and Utica.
He was an elephant. Do you know that name at all?
Yeah. It sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, he was an elephant, and he was all for the Italians. Started them working on construction, had them formed this workmen's benefits WPA, laying bricks, building swimming pools. There's 2 swimming pools still standing in Utica that were built by them and in use all summer. Yes, they were very strong, the Italians. They were East Utica. They stayed in one part of town, it seemed. And the
Yeah. Well,
Polish people stayed on the other side of
yeah.
town.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it was in New York. Everybody had their section and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they weren't naturalized. Both my mother's parents had to. I still have the card
Do
with their
you?
photo on it. Yeah, that they were
Oh,
enemy aliens. That didn't last very long because, of course, Roosevelt needed the Italians to go to war, so
for sure.
Right.
Yes.
he had to he had to get rid of that, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
So did your grandparents at all? Did they talk about Italy at all?
Not really. I have to say that. But all spoken in Italian in their house. The little bit that I learned, that's where I got it. And like I know you said yourself, the only time my mother and father spoke it is when they didn't want us to know what they were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because they spoke fluent.
Yeah.
Well,
Both
yeah,
of 'em.
sure. They
Yeah,
same thing
of
here. They
course.
had my parents used to argue who spoke better Italian because my mother was from Bari and
Oh.
my father was from Naples, and the
Uh,
dialect was
Oh,
completely
yeah, yeah.
different. I mean, they
they're all
understood.
special.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they understood each other, but they would always say, "Well, you're not talking real Italian. You're not talking
We don't
Italian."
say it like that. I
Oh,
know the Calabrese had
yeah.
their own way
Yeah.
of speaking.
Well, and I mentioned to Dan the other day when we talked about I'm trying to learn this song in Calabres, and they sent it to me, printed it out, and it doesn't look anything like Italian.
Oh dear, what was it?
Yeah.
The song is Mangia Grappa. Eat the goat. Eat the
Oh,
goat.
eat the goat.
Eat
Eat the goat. Yeah. And
Oh,
when we were there, he I'm trying to think of the guy's name. I can't remember his first name now, but the singer started singing it, and then he made us sing it. The chorus is "A mangia clappa, pizzeria, pizzeria," and then he would sing the verses, of course. But he made us all sing that part. And so I said, "Can the music was easy. It's only 3 chords. Uh,
Yeah.
Trying to learn this phonetically is very, very hard."
Oh, okay.
I know. I'm embarrassed to say I never really learned how to sing the other songs that they sing so fluently and frequently. Solo mio and those I
Yeah,
didn't
well,
get.
my aunts, I had a couple of my older aunts. They always used to, when we had a party or something like that, they were always the singers. My mother, not so much, but she was one of the youngest. She was born in 23,
Hmm?
25, 25. And her oldest brother was born in, I want to say, like 1906. So there was
Oh, yeah, yeah.
between the oldest and the youngest in my mother's family was 20 years. And in fact, she
Yeah.
had some nieces and nephews that were almost the same age as her.
Oh, brother, yes.
Yeah.
I remember how that was.
When you have a big family,
Yes,
it's like that.
it's inevitable. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So did you eat Italian food or American food growing up?
Pretty much ate Italian food. Yes, my mother made a lot of frittata, and she, of course, always her Sunday. Everybody calls it sauce now. It was gravy, but she was. I'm making the gravy, but it became sauce, and then macaroni became pasta.
Yeah, that's right.
But same difference, yes, very often. But
I don't
one
think
thing I do recall my grandmother giving me this little pot to go over to the slaughterhouse with around the corner from where we live for the blood, the pig's blood, and they would prepare that in such a way it became a dessert.
Really?
It gelled, and they would put nuts and oranges in it,
Hmm.
and that became a dessert to us.
Yeah.
They sweetened it. That's what it was. We ate a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Every part, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I've heard of them using, pig blood or cow blood but never
Yeah.
for a dessert. That's
Oh yeah.
something.
It was
Yeah.
thickened. We just ate it. We didn't question it.
Yeah, there was other traditions a lot with, of course, the dough, the pasta. My grandmother would, roll it out on the kitchen table
Yeah.
and making gnocchi.
She'd make them.
And then she'd make the dough, and then of course other pieces. Sometimes, she would just take the dough and just throw it in the hot oil and fry the dough, and roll it in sugar. We have,
That was another dessert.
pretty simple. But it was probably wasn't too bad. A lot of the flour back then, I don't know.
That's what you got, pizza feet. I
Yeah.
got stale bread,
Oh, well.
wet. Put it under the faucet, Grandma would
Okay.
say. Put it under the faucet, my
Oh,
grandma,
I-
and sprinkle some sugar on it. It's
oh,
good.
oh, boy.
Okay, so I ate it. See, Brandy School was right in the next block from my grandmother, so I was always at my grandmother's. My mother was working in the cotton mill. My father was working.
And this is the one you're named after.
This is Lucrezia.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. It was
Oh, that's-
fun. We didn't know
that's-
any better. Everybody was doing the same thing around us. So what did we know?
yeah.
Yeah, and we actually had, when we were in Calabria, and we in Fasado, where they had this whole spread put out for us. We actually had the fried bread, the fried
Mhm.
dough
Dough,
with the sugar. Yeah.
Oh,
Pizza fritta, yes.
okay.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
up near Naples?
No, this was Montebello in Calabria, Fasado actually, but the towns are very close.
Okay.
In the mountains of Montebello, I guess it was Reggio Calabria. I guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they
Gotcha.
that's what they had.
Was that not something that your family did? Fried the dough?
Probably, I don't remember it.
Okay.
I would guess that probably my father's family more than maybe my
Uh-huh.
grandmother's family. The big dessert that everybody loved that my grandmother's family made was called pizza dolce, which
Oh,
was
yes. I've heard of
which
pizza dolce. That
yeah,
wasn't in our thing, but I've heard of it.
and it's almost like a flan because there's no pastry involved. It's
Oh,
they were farmers, so they probably had eggs,
oh
ricotta,
yeah,
milk,
yeah.
and sugar, and that's
The
a little
custard.
lemon. That's
It
all it
was
is.
custardy, yeah.
It's like a custard. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a special pan to cook that in.
Yeah, we use like I guess like a 15 by 7 or 8 roasting pan. That's what I make it in.
Yes, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I remember that round pan. I remember that. We didn't, that wasn't our thing. It's funny how different from smaller distances apart had different customs. Yes, very different.
Well, and even the languages. I mean, from town to town.
Hmm.
I was told that in Calabria, there's still towns that speak almost Albanian.
I'm sure. Well, they
Yeah,
do have a lot of Albanians
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. That's true.
The
I've
people
heard the
at the
same.
Lagaros, weren't they
Yeah,
Albanians?
yeah. They've been coming for
Yeah,
hundreds of years
yeah,
because it's just across
that's
the
right.
water.
Yeah, it's just
that's right.
across. Yeah,
And
but
Yeah,
they still speak a dialect.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's Albanian. I also heard some of these small towns still have like almost a Greek kind of dialect.
yeah.
Well,
A lot
I
of Greek.
thought that my grandfather, my mother's uncle in Pennsylvania, looked Greek. He
Yeah,
was dark and had a mustache. He looked very Greek. I always thought that.
yeah. A lot of Greek in
Ye-
the southern part of Italy.
yes,
They were
yeah,
there. They were there for
dark.
hundreds and hundreds of years.
That part of my mother's family was dark on her mother's side,
Yeah,
Damianos.
yeah.
So Dan, have you done a DNA test?
I've done a DNA test. Yes.
So what'd you come out as?
It's about 96% Italian. And then there's yeah, I have to look at it to remember, but there's just little pieces of somewhere else around the Mediterranean, maybe Northern Africa, and maybe up in the Middle East. But yeah, it's mostly all
I've
Italian,
never done it.
the Italian area.
I wish I had done my mother's. I kept thinking about it, and I never asked. And I really
Yeah.
I should have brought some kits to Italy because the Italians they don't do it.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Yeah.
very few, and then I
They
guess they
don't
don't
want
have
to
to do it.
know. They
Well, I
don't
guess they
want
don't
to.
have to know. They know where they're from. But Dan, if you did Ancestry now,
Yeah.
they split. If you go in there, they split it now between your father and mother. So they
Okay.
show you
Well,
from
I
each
did.
side.
Okay, well,
Oh,
I think I might try that one too. I did a few
20,
years back. I did
23,
the one called 23andMe.
23 and me.
So that would be interesting to compare the two companies. Yeah, I think I'll try that. Is it?
Yeah, what I don't like about all of the companies, when they go through their algorithm, a lot of times they change over time.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
But I did too. I did Ancestry, and I also did Living DNA
Oh,
because I
there's.
thought more Europeans would do it because they're based in Switzerland. Um,
Oh,
Oh,
but
wow.
okay.
there wasn't as many. But what Living DNA does is they give you your maternal line and your paternal line.
Okay.
So they could trace back for women. There's only a maternal line. For men, there's both, right? Your maternal and paternal.
Oh, yeah.
And what was really interesting about my mother, her maternal line, 94% from the Caucasus,
Yeah,
going
that's
back, going back
yeah.
like
Not that
2 or 3
much.
thousand years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
almost her whole DNA going back. Actually, it's more than that. It's probably more like 10,000 years. Um,
Wow.
from the
Yeah.
Caucasus,
So,
and my father line goes through like Romania, Switzerland,
oh,
and they said that DNA from my father's
Oh
paternal
my
line
gosh.
were all like mountain people,
Scandinavian?
not Scandinavian, but like the mountains of like Romania, Switzerland, Spain. So for
Wow,
some reason, these people all came from the mountains.
Yeah, here's mine.
that's
Here,
interesting.
I
That's
did
interesting.
find it on the phone, and it's 94.3%.
European.
Says Southern European, and then it'll say 94.3% Italian, but then it says Greek and Balkan, but it's
Which makes sense.
very
Yeah,
small,
it does.
0.2, and then there's a
Didn't go back very
5
far.
no, and then the 5% is, like I said, Northern,
West Asian.
Caucasian a little bit in there, Mesopotamian a little bit there, Cypriot, very small amount. So all the other thing is so small, 1%, 1%, 1%. But yeah, it basically says 94% Italian, Calabria, in 8 regions. So they kind of close the whole thing in the lower part of Calabria.
Is that where you are, where the dark part is there?
Yeah, that's yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
So, but I would like to try the other one too.
Yeah.
You know, she hasn't tried it, but you know, you do collect all these documents, as I am, for the citizenship that's required to present to the courts, and you end up picking up all these little stories, you know, because other people that I know that are in the family and told me things, and you know, whatever.
Be interesting to see my grandchildren take it. That's what I'd like to see, because most of my kids married. Nobody married Italian.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
3 of them married Polish.
Yeah.
And one married someone from the Dominican Republic or whatever. So they're all mixed.
Well, that's my wife is half Sicilian. Her mother is Sicilian. Her father was born in Dominican Republic, and he and then he was in, he grew up in Puerto Rico. My wife's grandfather, great grandfather, I think it was. He owned coffee and sugar plantations in Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico.
We have someone in our family like that too.
That's big. The coffee.
They just left. You know, they finally came back here. They got nervous. They're older.
Oh.
They have a son in Long Island, so I don't know what they did, but and he was #1 coffee plantation
because of the hurricane
in the Dominican.
Because of the hurricane.
Oh, really? Yeah. Wow.
Oh.
Yeah. He had quite a plantation.
I tell you, when you go and you spend as much time as that I do over in a place where your ancestors are from, you pick up the stories, because the people in that town have been there for hundreds of years too.
And they want to talk about it.
And they remember people when, say, I was talking to an 80-year-old, and a great guy, and he's from there, and he remembers being 10 years old. So he remembers my grandfather's brother, you know, because, you know, when he was 10, it was, I don't know, 70 years ago. And so my grandfather's brother was alive and well and raising his family over there, you know, in that town. So indirectly. But then I also have actually met cousins. So they would be my grandfather's brother's grandchildren. So they're my same generation.
Yeah.
So, and they're all gone. My mom here is the only one that's left on that particular line.
Right.
So they were so happy to meet me and develop and talk and share pictures, because they sort of knew about us. You know, they knew that their grandfather had a brother and he went to America.
Yeah, it just happened. It was the 2 boys who carried the Bonacci name.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Of course, the women don't lose their name anyway in Italy, but
that's right. Yeah.
They're Bonaccis, as well as myself.
So now, Lucrezia, have you ever gone back? Have you ever been to Italy?
I've been, yes, I went in the 70s.
Oh, she's got a story for this. Well,
I told you, we'd have to see him personally. Tell that story.
No, you could tell him.
Wait a minute. This is broadcast.
Oh, she went to 1971.
I went in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
And with 2 aunts, I talked them into it. And we didn't do a lot of trip. They thought we were just going to sit with them and stay there. Well, we wanted to see Rome. I mean,
of course.
Absolutely. I wanted to see Rome. I wanted to see Pisa. And that would be a wonderful story to tell him sometime. But anyway, and then Dan took me in, was it 6 years now?
2016. Wow, yeah,
It's
2016 we went,
It's almost 6 years ago now.
but really not in the idea thinking that we were.
Not at all. And I'm disappointed that we saved Catanzaro, Calabria, for the last part of our visit. We did all the upper part first. We went all the way up to where,
Well, from Rome, we were in Tuscany, and we went to
yeah, we went up
Florence
to Tuscany.
and Naples,
Florence,
Amalfi
Florence,
Coast.
oh, Florence is wonderful.
Yeah,
Of course, the Amalfi Coast.
Yeah.
Those are
yeah.
things you want to do when you go. You know, you want to Naples. Oh my God!
Sorrento. We went. You know,
I
that
never
was-
had sfogliatelle until I went to
Oh,
Naples.
that's right. That's
Oh my God! They are the kings of sfogliatelle. I love it. So that was it in 16, and so we did get down there, and oh my God, I wanted to just stay there.
Yeah, we, because it was sort of the end of the trip, we only had like 3 days left.
Yeah,
so I say I want to go there and just go to cemeteries, but
Yeah,
we did go to one. We
Yeah.
did
Did
go
you?
to
Yeah.
cemetery. Yep,
yeah.
very different than ours.
much,
Much.
yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I went, and I don't know if I told this story on our last interview, Dan, but I just 2 months before we went, I got contacted by my father's first cousin through my great grandfather's second wife,
Oh boy.
and my great grandfather was 60, and his second wife was 30, and he
Wow.
had a whole
Yeah.
family. Well, not a whole family. He had 2 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And Nicola is the son of one of the daughters. His Nicola named
Right.
after his grandfather, and his grandfather is my father's grandfather, and my father was Nicola,
Wow.
so Nicola, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So-
yeah.
Nicoletta was a famous, a popular name around here.
Yeah. So
Nicoletta.
he contacted me, and we met and for lunch because we were having a thing with the family, and he said, on Tuesday, I'm going to meet you at the cemetery, and
Oh,
then I want you to come with me. So I said, well, it's okay with the driver and with the TC, you wait a driver inside. So they said, yeah, it's fine. Do whatever you want to do. You can do whatever you want to do.
oh,
So
okay.
he took us to the cemetery where my great grandfather was buried along with his second wife and Nicola's mother and father and his aunt. They were all together. But then he
Yeah.
showed me the crypt from the family that my
Oh,
great great grandfather sold because he liked gambling and women, so he wound up selling the crypt.
maybe he gambled it away.
Possibly,
Could be.
and in fact, my great grandfather was illegitimate,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
he was the first child, and from what I
Yeah.
could piece together, his my great grandfather's wife adopted or took on my
Yeah.
great grandfather somehow because it's on his birth record that he was definitely illegitimate. But he
Really?
was, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, Nicola takes us to this apartment, and we're going up the stairs, and he says, just wait for 1 minute. And he goes up, and I hear all this Italian going on and back and forth and everything. And he says, okay, you can come up now. And there were 2 women in their 90s,
Oh,
and they were
good.
my father's first cousins from my grandmother's youngest brother.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And I
wow.
never knew these women existed. I never
Oh,
Yeah.
knew.
Yeah.
isn't
Uh,
that something?
and we're standing there, and they go get photos, and they
Yeah.
take out the photo of my parents' wedding with my
Really?
grandmother's writing on the back.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So many things. My mother wrote all over the photographs.
Oh, they used to
That's
love
right.
to
That's
go
what they
back
used to
and
do. Yeah.
Wrote right on the photograph.
Yeah, they used to.
Yeah.
In fact, this was like back then in the 20s. It was almost like a postcard because on the
Oh.
back you could actually
Oh,
have the
I've
place
seen
for the
them on
address and
postcard.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looked just like a postcard. Yes.
And then when we got back a few weeks after we got back, Nicola went through his mother's things, and he found photographs that my grandmother sent from America to Italy
Yeah.
in the
Sure.
20s, and
Oh, wow.
one of them was 1919, and she wrote on the back, in Italian, of course, to
Yeah.
my dear father from your dear daughter, so you never forget.
Wow.
How cute is that?
Wow.
So she knew
Yeah.
that she was never going to see him again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It is.
and
Wow.
so now it's 100 years later, and
Yeah.
he
Oh,
comes up with this card.
God.
But
I-
I tell people there's no accidents. There's some
Well,
force out there.
we have a similar. Get some water. We have a similar story. So my fiance and I were was looking at the house to purchase, and we see a steamer trunk in the house because the furnitures were in there, and we have the steamer trunk, and we're looking at it, and sure enough, there was a steamer trunk in that house that came from Utica, my hometown.
Get out of here.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Well, but again, this speaks to the
The
connection.
connection. Yeah.
There was a couple organizations in Utica here because there were so many people from Cropani in Calabria that were from that were living in Utica that they, and I'm sure a lot of them went back and forth.
We knew the name.
Some never went back, but and then when I'm and to this day when I am in Cropani, all the names are my hometown names. And I joke to my brother, well, one day when you come here, you're going to realize you walk down the street and yeah, everybody's looks like they're from Utica.
Yeah.
I know. It's so funny, and they treat. That's the thing I came away with. First of all, how they treat you. The second thing is they don't forget. They know things that happened
no.
200-300 years
Open
ago.
Yeah.
Open arms, like it was yesterday.
Yeah, yeah.
Unbelievable.
And
Yep.
that's the way we were greeted by my father's cousins. Like we left there, and I said to my wife, I said, I felt like this was 60 years ago.
Oh,
That I was with
How wonderful.
my family,
Close-
and
close-
that's just the way they treated us.
yeah, yeah. It's nice.
It wasn't like, oh, you're some
Yeah.
stranger from another country that just
No.
wants to see. No, it was
Isn't
family.
that wonderful?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's
Such a warm feeling. Yes.
It was probably such a big thing because family, of course, is very important, and these people were going away across the ocean in a boat. They didn't even know where they were
That's
going.
true.
No one had ever gone before, and they probably thought, I probably will never come back. So it was a very emotional and mental strain.
I guess it
So
was.
now when they see people that are like, well, all those people are dead now because that was 100 years ago or more, but we're back here. Just we don't really know why. We're just kind of drawn back.
There must be somebody around
to meet. Sure enough, things as the years go by, as the months go by, especially for me because I'm able to stay because I have a property. You just find more and more people that are there, and they knew people that we knew. So
It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
Sorrentino, there aren't too many Sorrentinos around here in Utica. I don't think anybody settled here. There are Fiorentinos. You know that name at all?
I know that name. Sure, yeah, I've heard that name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We knew that.
that's a
We knew-
Calabrian name as well. There's a store down there called Fiorentino.
Every country we passed, every street. I know those people.
Also the town. names,
Everybody
the
had
town,
a
Yeah.
the town of Nicotera. There's big Nicotera. You would have loved Nicotera here locally because he was a fella all the musicians went to. He operated out of his garage. He sold drum sets. He sold guitars.
It was a bakery.
She says the bakery. I didn't know anything about that.
It was a bakery.
I knew they had drum sets and guitars and guitar strings and drumsticks. The guy was great, and what he did, which is very similar in Italy. He lived in the house and he turned his garage into a
Yes.
store.
Yeah.
And in Italy, you live above what they call
Your
the magazine.
business.
You
Yeah.
live above
Yeah.
what they call the magazine.
Uh-huh.
and you open that up with an overhead door, and that's where you sell your cheese and your wine and your
Oh my
bread.
gosh, imagine how wonderful that must be. You need a loaf of bread, you just go down the street.
Yeah, yeah.
I paid
So
$4.50 for a loaf of bread last week.
it's
$4.50.
it's not. We went to the store today. I couldn't believe $50. We had nothing.
Oh no!
Well, I had some. I wanted to have a couple of extra things around because,
So
and I can't stand and cook at the stove the way I used to. So I decided I'm going to order a nice half tray of
Oh, I couldn't believe this.
Mulligan, nice baked eggplant, all done
Well,
up.
see, there's the dialect. She called it
yeah,
it's gonna be okay.
Mulliganzane, you said. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
So I did, and I'm telling him about it, and he said, "Oh, that's so nice." I said, "Yeah, it's. I hope you enjoy it." He goes, "Why?" I said, "Because it was pretty darn expensive." He says, "What? 30? No. 40? No. Come on. 50? No. $60 for a half a tray. I'm talking a half a tray was maybe that big.
This is
Yeah.
American. Yeah, okay.
But I wasn't going to
Wow.
stand there and dip it and fry it for 2 hours either. So it was worth it. It was delicious.
I know.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I went and got um, an eggplant. We call them heroes, sub whatever,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Right.
sure.
1950.
No.
1950.
Well, who just told us
Must
something
be eggplants is getting to be rare. I don't know.
unbelievable?
Well, yeah.
Well,
So how much? So how much was a loaf of bread when you were a kid?
oh my God, if it was 10 cents, maybe. And don't laugh, we used to try and buy the day old. That was even cheaper. Because there
My
were bakeries around then. Where my
Yeah.
grandmother
yeah,
lived.
lots of bakeries.
Yeah, when my grandmother's, I used to go. The school was here. The bakery was across the street.
Oh, I remember.
She
You
said,
know,
"Go buy a loaf of bread."
not only did I wake up, we had also a huge Wonder Bread factory.
Yes,
So I woke up with the smell of fresh bread. But then there was the
Oh.
Italian smaller shops. You
yeah,
know,
it had the fresh bread.
because the Wonder Bread, that was like a
That
factory.
was American bread.
But yeah, the small shops, the family shops, Rentronas, DeVito's, all those, they were making
all baking it in their back rooms.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
My girlfriend that lived way down, right in the heart of East Utica, mother would bake the bread every day, which was, God, I can't even imagine.
there was another one with
And there was a couple of them down from her on the same street. And she'd say to her mother sometimes when they go to school, Mary and Jane they always have bread with those red the papers got red balloons on them. Why can't we have that?
Oh yeah.
She said the ones that had the red balloons were wishing that their mother was baking the bread that you were making. You wanted this American bread.
we used to go to the beach with eggplant parmesan and sausage and peppers,
I used to
and
take it. That's
and
right.
and the kids on the next blanket were eating peanut butter and jelly.
I'm below. That's right. My mother'd get up early in the morning and fry peppers for us to make lunch to go to high school. I remember before she went to work.
We still got Utica. I don't know. I don't think it'll ever die with that good Italian food. We still got quite a few places around.
Oh yeah.
Great sausage, great breads, great pastries. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to hunt it down, but it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, pastry shop.
And $60 eggplant.
Oh my God.
Well, that's true. The cost. It tastes as good as Italy, but boy, it costs about 3 times the price. Yeah.
I didn't realize it till she gave me the bill. I said, I only asked for half a tray. I said, wow. I said, then how much must a whole tray have? She said, I know. But it was worth it.
My cousin Chintzia fried, I think she said 5 kilos of eggplant when we went to Fasado.
You know how long it takes? Yeah. I only did one eggplant with my daughter about 3 weeks ago. I did all the dipping and the breading and she fried. When we got to cut the second, she said, Mom, we're not doing the second one. I said, you're right. I can't stand her anymore.
I'll do like 3 or 4 at a time, and then I freeze them. I bread them,
That's
fry them, freeze
do
them,
it.
Oh, yeah.
and then, you know,
Then when you want them, you take them out.
That's,
Yes,
that-
done. Yeah. I have,
it makes it a little bit easier.
yeah, a little bit.
You know, at
Yeah.
least and it's funny. I was here one day in the summertime. Of course, we have central air conditioning. The air conditioner's going. I'm frying, and I'm,
Of course.
the thing. And I thought back to my aunts in the small little kitchen, no
Oh,
air
yeah.
conditioning,
Oh, they're
for,
lucky.
for
Never failed.
hours and hours and hours. And never a complaint. Never.
No, it was
Yeah.
it was the norm.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
the norm. That's the way everything was done.
Well, that's why Italian food tastes so good. It's because it's made with love. So that's the
Yes,
difference.
it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Dan, Lucrezia,
This was
I
wonderful.
really appreciate it. I thank you so much for doing this. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, we're happy to do it.
Great.
My daughter in South Carolina will be looking forward to watching it.
Oh, good.
Yes, she
Very
does it.
good.
We record it, and
Yeah.
they'll watch.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Congratulations on putting together a good show like this. I
It's
see a
wonderful.
lot of your other interviews as well as your other posts and all the other information. Is really it's
It's fun.
it's good stuff. Yeah,
It's fun to watch.
Oh,
interesting.
well, thanks. I appreciate it. And I'm hoping any day now. My book is going to be out, so you need to sell some in Utica.
Yeah.
What's the name of it?
Oh,
It's called Farmers and Nobles because my mother's family were farmers and my father's family were nobles.
My
So and
That's
I go through
Yeah.
this why I started doing the research.
okay, great.
And then I talk a little bit about my childhood growing up, and then
Yeah.
my research, and then stories about the 30 or so noble families that I have. So
Wonderful.
excellent.
Well, we only have one bookstore, so hopefully it'll get to Barnes and Noble.
Yeah. So what will be the easiest way to get
well,
it?
it'll be on Amazon, it'll be on
Okay.
Janaway, and I think I could sell them myself too, but I have to figure that out. But it'll be on Amazon for sure. so.
Amazon. My
Okay.
kids are all on Amazon. What did they do before that? I don't know.
You went to the bookstore.
Yes. That's the truth.
Everything changes.
Thank
I suppose.
Thank you so much for inviting us to do
All
this.
right, no, it's my pleasure.